You got a tune? The A-Team? Magnum P.I.? Magnum? No idea.
It's Dan and Mick, DIY SOS on Ice. I made it up, Dan.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's very familiar.
I made it up based upon all TV theme tunes of yore.
Very good. Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. VCQ, Dan here.
Mick here, hello.
It's been an eventful week for us.
Are you kidding?
We had a gig this week with Joey Landreth in Whitney at Fat Lil's. And I'm going to say that is the most fun I have ever had on stage, ever.
Yeah.
Just wonderful.
Turn
yeah,
the
so
mic up a
massive thank you to everyone that came out. We filled the place. It was wonderful. And there
Can
was...
you move towards me just a touch? I don't know whether it's just my brain telling me that you're not quite in the middle, but there you go, that's better.
Better?
Maybe. Yeah. I want to be going, oh, Mick, what's wrong with you? You can't see.
We had 6 amps on stage, all working hard, sounding amazing. And, I mean, you know, it was loud. But it was so good.
It was dynamic.
Yeah.
Is what it was. And I guess that's one of the things that 3 guitars gives you in a way. You don't have to... Oh, I'm just really worried about the audio, Dan. What's that all about? Subject normal. Nothing changes. Yeah, not everyone has to be banging the whole time, do they?
Yeah, no, it was wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, as he said, thank you so much to everyone who came to the gig. That was amazing. There is not a live stream and there won't be. Too much hassle, too much production. To give it any justice would be beyond our capability. So we just want it to be a moment in time, which it was. And massive thanks to Fat Lil's in Whitney. If you don't know that venue, Fat Lil's in Whitney, it's a great place there in Oxfordshire. And Zach, who did the sound, did us so proud.
Yeah.
For any bashing we've ever given any sound engineer, Zach made up for all of you.
Yeah.
Put together and then some.
It was awesome.
What a fantastic night we had.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what a trip.
So the video this week was the Chris Buck pedalboard build. There was lots of love for Simon's 24 references. I thought that was genius. So D-Mac, Bill Morgan, Joe Channing, Chris Gibbons, Francis Gorey, David Hodgeboom.
What a cool name.
Brilliant. Jim, that goes on the strong name board.
Yeah.
Jim Golden, Rob Joseph, and Big Shoot, and many, many others.
Yeah, I think that was John Channing. Sorry, that's my typo there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not Joe Channing, it's John Channing, I think. Anyway, if it's Joe Channing as well, that's great. Yeah, what a cool show. Much love for Mr. Buck out there, deservedly so. My friend kicks us off, says, why 2 Echo-X is an excellent question, but how come there are 6 blues breakers is a more important question.
So that's the gain sound that Chris connects with. But the thing is, if you want to know why 6 blues breakers, go and check out the JHS vlog this week on what is a blues breaker.
I haven't got the horn because we're in the old shed in Dan's gig rig room here today.
Ye oldie pedal shed.
Ye oldie pedal shed. Yeah. I recognise the 200 hertz.
Very good. So Josh's vlog this week talks about blues breakers and why, even though these pedals use the same topology, they are vastly different.
Yeah.
And you know, he puts a King of Tone next to an original blues breaker. They're just vastly different.
Yeah.
So, but they have a similar feel. And if you find that pedal that you like, and you want different gain structures and volumes and things, sometimes 6 pedals of a similar ilk is going to work better than 1 pedals with 3 different boosters pre and post.
Yeah, it's a gain. Somebody actually did make this point in the VCQ, and I apologise for not putting it in specifically, but someone said, you know, they'd had a realisation watching the Chris show that he's using these things as subtle shades and as a gain stacking approach, rather than going, right, I've got my fuzz for my fuzz sound, my tube screamer for my tube screamer sound, blah, 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 you know, with all these very different contrasting types of overdrive. Chris is like, no, I just want shades of more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's his sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with that. Look at what he does. It's amazing. Octicillo Alvarez and Matt Flickinger were kind enough to mention how good it sounds in headphones. Yes. Please. We're going to put this at a little logo.
Oh, I've made the logo. I just keep forgetting to give it to Simon to put in the edits.
That's good. Because at the start of the show, it's going to say, sounds better with headphones.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Or studio monitors or whatever it is you listen to. Just not out of your iPhone.
Yeah. It does make a massive difference.
Yeah.
Because a lot of work goes into the audio.
It does, not least Michael Striano, hi Michael, among others, said, amazing episode, love the tone of the new room. It seems cleaner and brighter. Is that just me? I thought this was an interesting observation. It's definitely livelier. So for anyone who doesn't know, before we had the kind of theatre cloth draped all the way around the inside, and it made the room extremely dead, didn't it? It freaked us out to begin with.
Yeah.
Because it was so dead compared to when we used to film in here.
You're turning the amps up going, it's not getting any louder.
Yeah.
And they were banging.
Yeah. Actually, on a side note, for anyone who laments the loss of the dB meter, it will return. But if you're surprised about seeing numbers like 100 plus on the dB meter, I think it's because the room was so sapping of energy that actually a lot of it was just getting sucked in and absorbed, and it wasn't, we weren't perceiving the loudness. Changing the sides as we have done in the new place with the pedals and everything, what we've got is a load of more reflective surfaces, and it does sound brighter, and it does, cleaner is a moot point because there will be other things going on, but it does sound brighter, and it does sound more lively. So that's one thing. The second thing is, hang on, I've written down the three things that I need to mention. Oh yeah, we simplified the mic setup. So we used to put 2 mics on every cab because I like the flexibility of being able to just change that mic mix a little bit if one of the mics wasn't quite right. However, since we've got the Sontronics Delta, what they call Delta 2s, the ribbon mics,
they're just magic, aren't they?
Such a great sounding thing. Just don't need to complicate it. And actually, it was Fraser, our new assistant. We've named him. Fraser has started.
It's Fraser.
Fraser has just finished his Tonmeister degree, so he knows sound. He really knows sound.
He's very, very
He
good.
is an aspiring producer, so we're giving Fraser some room to run. And he was like, doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
The room mics and these single mics, why complicate it? And
Sure.
I think that might be part of the cleanliness you're talking about. Finally, on the voice audio, not in here today because we're not there, we've started to use Isotope RX7 on the voice mics, which cleans it up a bit. There's a noise reduction software which has utterly blown my mind how good it is.
It's crazy.
Because every bit of noise reduction software I've ever heard for voices always adds artifact and never quite sounds natural. This, Fraser just put it on there. I was like, I cannot believe that is actually happening. So, Isotope RX7, unbelievably good software. So that might explain why it sounds different. And we're always looking to evolve, aren't we?
We are, absolutely.
Always better, all the time.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Grant Firstat says, Chris's touch is really something. It's just one of those intangibles that you can't describe. Just something about the way he opens the envelope on every note. Yeah, it is something. And it's something that he does acoustically.
Yeah.
When we were in Germany, he was there and he had the Yamaha thing. And just hearing him just pick up a couple notes acoustically, and people who walk past him just stop and go, did that again. Pete Thorne walked past him and went, hang on.
Honk.
Just yeah. It is something wonderful. I'm just going to duck over here for 1 second and then come back.
What will I say about Costa Coffee? Their flat white is beyond awful. Too much milk. It's a latte.
Right.
They have done a something called a cortado recently, which is a little bit better.
Right.
In terms of your espresso through milk.
Okay. I find that decaf tasty.
Yeah, this is good. Straight Americano. Fraser has taken us to a new level of coffee geekdom. He's got a little weighing machine and a timer, and it's a new world. I thought I was a bit of a coffee snob. Nothing on him. Nothing. So I feel okay. Anyway, should we move on, Dan? I don't know. It's been a strange weekend, and after such an amazing gig, I think we're both a little shell shocked by it.
Yeah, this gig's going to live with me for a long time.
Yeah, it's changed me. Changed me. I did a thing on Saturday for my dad up at his place, and I played, and I had a confidence that I never have.
Wow.
Just not cocky or anything like that. Just a kind of confidence. Just a relaxedness, which is, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, play with humans. Go out and play with humans. To other humans.
Yeah.
What a great thing. Okay. Ian Vine says of Chris, what a lovely player. A bit like John Mayer before he realised he was John Mayer. In capitals. That made me laugh. And Jason De Jong thinks Chris could go toe-to-toe with John Mayer as well. There was a lot of John Mayer comparisons, which I guess is quite gratifying in a way, but it also... guitar is not a competitive sport.
Yeah. Interestingly, John Mayer is the guitar player who brought the Blues Breaker pedal back into the limelight.
So he is.
So there you go.
Yeah. We all love John Mayer. John Mayer, however much you like or dislike John Mayer helped rebirth tastily played blues-type guitar back into the it's okay to do this idiom, didn't he?
And John, if you're watching...
Yeah, please come on the show.
Yeah.
I've met John a couple of times. Honk, honk. Splendid human he is too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please come on the show.
Yeah.
I will even do you a board.
Because you need it.
Ian King says, when you're doing these pedal boards, are the guests very coy or secretive about the pedals they have, as if they don't want people stealing their tone secrets? I know I am, and I'm a random rocking my way around Scotland. Not in the slightest.
No.
To be honest, I've only ever met one guy who was really just held back as much information as possible, or just on the way that he would play and stuff.
Really? Because he thought someone would steal it?
Yeah. But to be fair, this guy had a really unique way of doing what he did.
Right.
And he was very young at the time. I don't know if that changed. However, apart from that guy, I don't know anyone who does that.
It's much better to give it freely because A, that makes you feel good about sharing anything that you might be able to pass on to somebody. Secondly, no one can do what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter if you're John Mayer or a 5-year-old kid playing in assembly. No one can do what you do. So give it freely. Yeah. Please give it freely. Yeah. That's the whole point of being a musician and sharing, and God, I sound like a hippie. But I believe that strongly.
Sure. Well, this is interesting. Mark Smith says, on Chris's original board, he looks to be using a quartermaster switcher and generator PSU. The main new difference is the G2 replacing the quartermaster. How is the increased clarity and volume accounted for? What is the G2 given the quartermaster doesn't? Is it down to other changes, swapping to preferred patch leads? So what Chris had going in the quartermaster...
Before you answer, Chris answered, hey Mark, I'm currently bored on a 7-hour van drive, so I thought I'd chime in. This is Chris, bless him, reading the comments. I think the extra clarity primarily comes from having cleared up the signal chain on the old board. There was a fair amount going on outside of the quartermaster. Yep. That's what he says first. From memory, blah, 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 he talks about the signal chain. Anyway, couple that with G2 being bloody brilliant in his native Welsh, and you're on to a winner. Anyway, sorry TPS, I'm ruining Monday's VCQ. Damn.
No, so exactly that. He had lots of pedals before and after the quartermaster.
Yeah.
And so it's just, getting rid of that. I mean, I've done it myself, and I was setting up my board and thinking I'd be clever and have an always-on thing outside or something I can just get my foot to. And then I'm listening to my rig and I had it done up and I'm like, there's something going on there I'm not really happy with. And I just bypassed that one pedal. I'm like, oh boy.
People don't believe it until they hear it, and it's, we bang on enough about it, and the proof is there in the videos. It makes a difference. Whether you like that difference or not is
that's
another point. Some people don't like it.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the extra clarity and the extra. It's not for them at all. But but Chris certainly noticed it straight away, didn't he?
Yeah.
What I must do, I'm going to ask him to do this, and this may or may not make the edit. I'll send him a text and say, can you just give us a 1-minute video, iPhone response to the first gig?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how
yeah,
you
yeah.
feel about it. So
Yeah,
if
because
that's
it's
going
first
to
gig
happen,
wet dry as well.
if
Yeah.
that happens, I'm going to edit that in now.
Hey guys, Chris here. Just a quick one to let you know how I've been getting on with the board since last week. Suffice to say, I've started using a Helix. No, joking aside, we've done 2 tour dates with it since it was put together a couple of weeks ago, playing in Brighton and in Newcastle. Clearly, whoever booked this tour didn't own a map. But honestly, been absolutely blown away by it. I think the kind of biggest take-home message really has been just how much wetter I've been able to set my kind of wet effects, but still have that definition and that level of articulation that I wasn't getting before, because obviously you've got the 1 amp, that 1 amp being the V140 for anyone asking, handling the dry stuff, and then the V40 set to handle the wet stuff. Obviously giving the sound guy the capacity to be able to mix that in out front has been invaluable. Basically what I've been doing is getting it to a point where I'm happy on stage with the level of, or the ratio of wet to dry, and then giving the sound guy obviously that ability to be able to dial in the room a little bit more and kind of do it on a song by song basis, which is very cool, provided you have a sound engineer that you can trust. In terms of kind of floor space, it's been much the same as it was before, each cab's set up alongside one another, and in terms of like sonic space, I guess it's not really been anything different. The band haven't noticed any difference, not that they were very likely to be honest, but no one's really kind of picked me up on it yet, apart from the sound engineers who have actually gone out of their way to comment on how nice it is to have that capacity to be able to blend things in. So job well done, I think. In regard to the G2, I've got 1 preset going, which I'm quite proud of myself up until this point. I've had a couple of tear your hair out moments with it where my brain has just not been able to quite compute anything more complex than the quartermaster that I've been used to, but giving it over the past 2 gigs, really getting used to it and just knowing what does what. And as I said, ultimately I'm going to try and get a couple more presets up and running, but it's in stompbox mode for the time being. But as I said, my brain don't work so good with all this stuff, but we're getting there. So honestly, thank you very much for setting it up. Thank you very much to everyone who watched the episode and all the questions and comments and stuff. A real life vampire in the headlights was my favourite, I think. So as ever, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Cheers guys, take care.
Okay.
Rich Nets. Great show. Chris is one of those modest guitarists that don't know how good they are. Really interesting comment about using less gain for live work. Surely 99% would use more gain. What's going on?
Yeah.
Here's a bit of wisdom for you. Isn't it? That's one of those things that you just stumble on one day and you go, oh.
Yeah. If you go back to one of the old shows we did on solo tones, and we had a sound up, and we went, okay, and I'm just going to notch the gain back a little bit, and it just goes, oh.
All of a sudden you can hear everything.
Yep. You've got this dynamic range, things aren't as compressed. And if you think about the way Chris plays, he is so dynamic. That is everything.
Yeah.
So, he and also when you are playing live and the amps are up louder, they're doing more compression.
Yeah.
So you don't want more compression from the pedals. You want to be able to balance that up. Yeah.
Completely.
Gain stages, people. Gain stages.
In fact,
everything.
there is a slight paradox there, because when the amp is loud and really breathing, you can get away with more gain. I find, because it is louder and it's more audible, blah, blah, blah. When it's quieter, if you pile on more gain, all you get is just disappearance into the mix. And then when we say more or less gain, we're talking about the kind of gain levels that Dan and I use. Forget about fuzz a second, stacking a couple of overdrives. But I think it's also true with heavy music, where, you talk to Rabia, for example, Honk. I often reference Rabia when we talk about heavy music. Other heavy music practitioners are available.
Rabia, we miss you. Please come back on the show.
He's having an awesome time on tour with Leo and stuff at the moment. It's so good to see.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and all the Tosca stuff. We're so proud of you, mate.
Yeah.
But even he says, just back the gain off.
Yeah.
Because a lot of heavy players are about all the gain all the time. It's like, well, do you know what? There's a lot of gain there. You can just have a little bit less and be heard.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Maybe.
Right. Here we go.
We upset all users of pedal patch cables, and we didn't upset pedal patch, the good people at pedal patch. I've forgotten your name. You did comment, but the comment's not there anymore, so I'm not quite sure what happened. It might be Chris, might be Mike.
Adam, Pete, Dave.
Might be Chris, might be Steve. Sorry, I'm really, really sorry. And Pedal Patch put a very measured response. So anyone who saw the thing, saw us start to make a bunch of pedal patch cables and struggling because of a couple of things which we'll get into in a sec. And Pedal Patch said, look, I've got loads of really happy customers. They work great. You just got to be careful about how you make them. Blah, blah, blah. Yes.
Yeah. So the issue that I had, apparently, you're not supposed to use snips, even though there's a picture of snips on the instruction manual. Anyway, but you cut them with a straight blade. But the issue that I had was that you'd put them in, you connect them, and they tested fine. It was over tightening of the thumbs.
The screw. Yeah.
That was the big issue. So it's just not. You don't have to go crazy tight with that.
My Free the Tone ones did the same thing, where you basically you go all the way through and you just short the cable.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
So if you don't over tighten the thumb screw, I'm sure they're fine. But the issue that we had was we were really up against it time wise, and I just got to a point where I just had to say, I had to call time on it and say, because we weren't going to get it finished. We didn't finish until after 8 p.m. anyway. And we'd been there since early in the morning. And I had to get home. I had somewhere to be. And it was just a time thing. I would have happily carried on and worked all that stuff out. Like I said, lots of happy people using them.
Yeah.
Lots of people, Georgels and Lava, and there's lots of those sorts of cables that have the pin that go into that center braid. Lots of people very, very happy with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, as you are, James Moverly, having used Pedal Patch and made over 40 cables with only one dud, don't let this video put you off. Great service, price and product. Okay, well, we should get that said. Dan, how many Evidence Audio SIS cables have you made for touring boards going around the world at this moment?
Thousands.
Yeah, okay, so we're not idiots. It was a question of trying to get it done quickly.
Sure. There we go.
Yeah.
Because I can do those things in seconds.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Christopher Buckley. Yes, Christopher makes the point. I'm really surprised you didn't switch the snips for the Stanley blade. Would be much cleaner. Yes, clean cut. Dan sort of showed how to do that by rolling it so that it was round again. But anyway, I've used Pedal Patch solderless in the past. Still have the set. Still use them, and they're great. So what we then move on to is quite a lot of people going on, why don't you just use soldered cables?
Yeah.
Because they're more reliable. They're all of that.
It's just okay. There's a time factor with solder cables.
Yeah.
It just takes a long time to do it. And also with the solderless cables, they have very small plugs. And as a actual fact, you can get more on the board.
Yeah.
And you can, you just think of it, the amount of space we had to work with. That board was so crazy tight.
Yeah.
So, and you add another 1.5 inches at the back from where the plugs would have to go, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't have worked.
So, for sure, solderless is ultimately the best connection, isn't it? If they're soldered right.
Soldered, yeah.
Which is the whole other thing.
Yeah, but soldered still fails.
Yeah.
Get a dud solder joint.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Our boards change it literally every week.
Yep.
So it needs to be quick. And, with the screw-in solderless, if you're not familiar with that, not all solderless patch cables are created equal. The screw-in solderless, the tip actually screws into the end of the jack plug. So it is an unbelievably good connection.
Yeah, it's great.
So, anyway.
Okay. John Maloney asks, do both amps need an effects loop to run wet-dry? If not, where does the signal split then? Similarly, Guitars and Dan says, can you explain on this build how and where you split the signal to get the 2 amps? Was there a requirement to use a humdinger, or was there no hum to ding? Keep up the good work. And P.S. Where the hell is Dan's board build? It's done. It's filmed. It's on its way. But yeah, the reason my board was taking so long is because I couldn't get it out to you because it had a couple of the wetter boxes on there. But now that's out, so it's coming. Right. The splitting of the signal, yes. We used a humdinger, and the humdinger was put in the insert loop in G2 so that would move that split point around. Now, the signal goes through all the gain stages, and then the signal goes into the humdinger, which is splits. After that goes to what we call the dry amp, and that just gets the gain stages. From there, where it's split, then it goes through all the delays and things. And so that signal has all the gain stages plus delays and modulation and everything like that.
You can put that wherever you want. And even if you don't have any kind of switcher at all, you can just place that in your signal chain to split and send off wherever you want. No effects loops. To come back to your question, John, Dan and I tend not to use effects loops because we use high headroom amps and we prefer the sound of pedals in the front pretty much always because we're not high gain players. If you're a high gain player, things change a little bit, but so no effects loops required.
Yeah, just split the signal.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different ways you can split the signal as well. As long as you've got two outputs, one of them being isolated and phase reversible, then you're good to go.
Yes, in the spirit of being balanced in terms of other manufacturers, Fulltone makes a great ABY switcher pedal that has phase reversal and an isolated output, and Radial have a great range of stuff.
Yeah.
I will just shout for the Humdinger again because it's really tiny and it fits on any board and it is a spectacularly good product.
You're very kind. Okay. Andrew Watts says this may be a little bit of a moot question as it all sounded bloody phenomenal.
It did too.
It did. Man, it sounds
good
so
work, Fraser, again.
But I'm a little confused on Chris's amp order for the wet dry setup. It looked like the V140 was being used as the dry amp and the V40 as the wet amp when Mick was flicking them into standby to demo the difference. I thought it was preferable to have a higher headroom amp for the wet side to handle the extra harmonic content from delays, modulations, etc. Is there any reason Chris decided to go to the 100 watt Duchess for his dry amp? You can do it anyway. Yep. It doesn't matter. I mean, so yes, having that extra headroom is great, but that 40 watt amp is still really loud and has loads of headroom.
That's the point. We did talk to Chris about this, and before the show we just did it both ways, and he was happy either way. Yeah. But he seemed to, for reasons we're not quite sure, it could have been just a physical proximity thing in terms of which amp he was sat closest to. Decided to run the wet through the V40 and the dry through the 140.
The 140 has a thing about it, which is there's a touch sensitivity to it that I think for a dry amp and the way that Chris plays, like Robin Ford's using that at the moment, right?
Yeah. So I know that Victory lent Robin Ford an amp for the Montreux Jazz Festival, and then he chose to use it in France and Italy as well.
I used it playing it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, I let Joey use my 2-rock for the gig on Thursday, and I used the 140, and it sounded blooming great.
Yeah, so I think
really great.
I think there's the way that amp is so responsive and touch sensitive. I think for the dry amp, I think that will actually work really well.
And as you said, fits Chris's approach.
Exactly.
Because it gives him the ultimate dynamics. But just to underline Dan's point again, both of those amps at the volume Chris was playing in our room are pretty high headroom.
Yep.
So it's much less of an issue.
Yeah. So likewise, Dragonfly says, superb, extraordinarily wonderful playing. I love the wet dry tone. Chris, your rig sounds even better. I'm a bit confused as to how the signal is split the G2. We'll explain it there.
We explained that earlier.
But there's a wet dry video where we go through everything in detail. If you're confused about wet dry, go back and check it out.
I think there are even diagrams in it, aren't there?
Yeah, and puppets and everything.
Finger puppets, yeah. What you can't do in G2 is if you use amp outputs 1 and 2 is do wet dry there because everything goes to the main 2 outputs.
Yeah.
So you do need to split the signal in the loops preceding the main outputs 1 and 2. So if that's your confusion, that's what's happening there.
Sure.
Vincent van Haperen. Vincent says, how much do you worry about the wet and dry mics being in phase, especially if they would be summed to mono by the engineer? I would expect that even if the amps are in phase, the mics might be slightly out of phase because of placement, right? Also, would you agree that in a wet-dry rig, the wet effects should have an analog dry-through because of digital latency? For example, the wet-dry tremolo trick would not work with a digital tremolo like the Flint, and a wet-dry delay would not work using a fully digital delay like the RE20 Space Echo. Your thoughts are greatly appreciated. Right, first things first, phase. In that proximity, just stop worrying about it.
As far as mics are concerned?
Yeah.
Right.
There is, yes, of course they're going to be ever so slightly out of phase, but they're not going to be anywhere near kind of inverted phase that you would correct with a phase switch.
Sure.
Yeah, honestly, don't worry about it unless you have some very particular kind of problem.
The amps have to be in phase. Just
Yeah.
take the amps. Yes, it's very important.
Yeah, so if they're like this, if you've got one in phase and one out of phase, then that's a problem. But if we're talking about in phase and then out of phase, those two mics.
The digital thing is really interesting.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. So the latency, analog drive-through, I've always preferred it. Before I even got to the wet dry thing, the analog drive-through has always been really important to me. There are people who get great results with things that don't have analog drive-through. I'm not one of them. If you're using a pedal that has no analog drive-through and has latency, the problem using that in a wet dry rig is exactly as you say. When the signal is split and the dry signal is getting an analog tone, or zero latency tone, I should say, and then the split signal goes into latency, then it is impossible to get that in phase. The only way that you can get that in phase is then to add latency to the dry signal to match them up. But no amount of flipping the phase will sort that out. So in that sense, the analog drive-through is paramount, because what happens with the analog drive-through is that the dry signal is still in phase and the wet within the pedal, the effect is mixed on top.
Yeah.
All right. So hugely important. With the tremolo, the tremolo is really interesting. If you've got, you still get, we'll still do the phase thing. When you bypass that and go back to, as long as the pedal has true bypass, and also on phase, then you're great. When the effect kicks on, that movement in a wet dry thing, even if it has a bit of latency, will still give a nice wet dry thing. So I found this really interesting. I was using a Boss VB2 on my board for the wet thing, and there was something about it that I just wasn't quite connecting with. I thought it was analog, but if you bypass the pedal normally, it flips the phase, right? But there is one setting on there that doesn't flip the phase when you bypass it. I thought, well, I'll just use that. But what that does is it still goes through the delay chip.
Huh.
Right? And so whether it was bypassed or not, I was getting this fraction of a delay, and I just couldn't work it out. I'd turn on the vibrato and it would sound mega.
Was that the cause of the problem?
That was the cause of the problem.
We filmed Dan's board build and we listened back to the audio. I was like, something's really wrong here, mate. Something is out of whack by some considerable margin.
I take that off, and because that was the pedal that wasn't in G2. That was on the outside in the wet mix.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I take that off and I put on at the moment I'm using the tremolo from Walrus. Problem gone.
Monument.
The Monument, because it has the harmonic tremolo in it as well. Yeah. And problem solved. I thought, it's fascinating. So, and the issue is you can't, because you've got that little bit of latency, you can't correct for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you've got signal that's in phase, you've got your, if you imagine you've got your AC signals sort of like this, right? Out of phase, you've got this, but latency, what happens is it's a little bit off, and so you can't
delay.
It's a delay, and you can't, it's very difficult to fix that.
Just to probably annoy everybody, I'm in the process of getting rid of everything digital off my board.
Wow.
I've just had a few experiences recently where I've been listening to other people play. I've been using a couple of analog replacements for digital things that I have. I love the Vent, don't get me wrong. It's
great, isn't it?
Spectacularly great sounding thing, but it just causes other issues that I'm like... Got the thing from Jam, the Ripley Fall.
Oh,
I used that on Thursday night,
mate.
and it was just spectacular sounding, and I felt 100% connected all the time.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
I don't know how to explain it. And probably loads of hate comments will result, but you can't. Once you hear it, you can't go back.
Yeah.
You can't go back. I can't go back.
Yeah.
Heinl, Heinle, Heinle says, amazing episode, really want a wet dry rig now for sure. Question, how do you select your 2 amps? Are there special considerations for the wet amp or the dry amp? Is the higher wattage one, is one higher wattage than the other? We probably answered most of that in the previous question.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything works, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you can get 2 amplifiers together that sound decent, then you can do a really cool wet dry rig.
Just, some people like it if the amps are wildly mismatched in terms of gain and headroom. Dan and I, not so much. If the 2 amps are kind of in the same game, so they're similar. Not necessarily exactly the same.
Yeah.
But just similar in terms of their distortion characteristic and their headroom. Otherwise, what happens is when you step on a distortion pedal, one amp will basically disappear. The gainy amp will basically disappear, and the clean amp will go boom, which might be what you want, but not really the way we do it, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. Even if you've got some long forgotten amp stashed in a cupboard somewhere that was your first amp or is an old practice amp or something, start with that, because you'll be amazed. Even some old thing that you thought was useless will give you an incredible result wet dry.
Revenant 235 says, lads, what brand and model is that black humbucking guitar that Chris used? It is a Revstar RS720B.
I think it is. I checked this. I looked at all the pictures, but I think Chris has swapped the pickups because it had a different kind of pickup.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is. There's another model they do with humbuckers, but it's not available in that black finish. So we think it's an RS27B Yamaha Revstar. Please check them out.
Yep.
There was a little bit of confusion about the treble booster. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. I like you. Scott W and Everything Joseph were asking, hang on a minute, here's a treble booster that doesn't have to be first in the signal chain. What's going on, Dan?
Yeah, you can get treble boosters that don't have to be first in the signal chain. I don't believe, because it has, just looking at the controls, I don't believe it's a traditional designed germanium transistor.
Certainly not the way it sounded.
No,
it
just
sounded like a boost pedal.
Yeah,
when you put it after another overdrive.
With clarity. They've sent us one. I'm going to have a look at it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I think traditional treble booster, if it was in that position, it would really suffer.
Yeah.
But
so you think it might be an input impedance thing or an output impedance thing or both?
Having no idea the design of the pedal, I don't know. But I think it's one of those. It had that top end.
Yeah.
But it also had plenty of everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't shelve all those frequencies.
Just sounded more like a traditional boost to me.
Yeah. But with a bit more sparkle in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
great.
Yes. So is it time to revisit the treble boosters episode then, guys? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up for that.
Magnus Gulbranson. Hello, Magnus. With regards to gain stacking, how do you guys normally run your Analog Man sun faces? I got one a couple of months ago and I'm having a hard time using it on its own into a cleanish amp. It seems to lack mids and sustain feel under the fingers. Do you stack yours into other pedals, and if so, what?
I use my sun face all the time and I never use it on its own.
Right.
Never.
So you're just using it as a...
I use it like a booster.
Yeah.
That, when we do Shine On, and there's that solo bit, I have the crazy big massive sound and I just kick the fuzz face on in front of everything else.
No way.
Right? And that's going into... it's going into the... what's the Benson preamp as well. But the way I use it, and this is the trick that you showed me, because I normally with fuzzes was always on. And you went, no, just back it off a little bit. And, so I use that as like a boost now. And it's incredible.
Because before the Sunface, you weren't a huge fan of fuzz face types, were you? You're much more a big muff, tone bender kind of person.
Yeah. But then at the trip to Analog Man, we heard this thing. I was like, look, blown my mind. But what I love about using that in conjunction with another overdrive is that, with that fuzz turned down a little bit, you get all of that fuzz dynamic from the volume pot, but it's still going into your overdrive.
It is along with the Great Wall of China. What is it? The Parthenon.
Yeah.
What are the others? Niagara Falls, is it?
Yeah.
It should. The way a fuzz face cleans up should be the eighth wonder of the world, because no one will ever believe it. You've got this fuzzy, horrible mess, to quote Dennis Cornell, with the guitar full up, and Philip says the way to set your fuzz face is turn the two knobs all the way around to 10, and then turn them both back until the sound of frying bacon disappears.
Okay.
Philip Say's got a new record coming as well, actually.
Oh, does he?
Honk, honk, honk. It would be so cool to have Philip on the show.
Philip.
He is such a diamond geezer.
Would be amazing.
Just an amazing player. So we love you, Philip. We wish you well for the new record and can't wait to hear it. Not that you would ever watch this, but anyway. And yet, with a single coil pickup, a vintage style single coil pickup, particularly from a Stratocaster, 2 notches back on the volume knob. Best clean sound.
Amazing enough.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Magnus, it's a really weird thing. Some days I can stick that sun face into a super reverb with the bright switch on, and it is the most amazing sound. Other days it literally sounds like having your face cheese grated. And then on other days it wants to see a tube screamer, or it wants to see a clon, or afterwards to do all those things. Humbuckers I struggle with fuzz faces, always, unless it's full on, quite quiet, just doing a fuzzy gain pad.
Okay.
But as you say, no mid range. Forget about trying to cut through the mix.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
For me, fuzz face got to be really, really, really loud with a single coil pickup.
Yeah.
And then
Magic.
that's where it is.
Patrick Stutt says, I need a bit of advice. I'm about to get a preamp on my board, the JHS Clover, which is a wonderful choice. And I'm wondering about placement in relation to my volume pedal. I've watched your volume pedal placement video. The volume pedal currently sits at the very start of this chain after the tuner. But I was wondering if I could place it after a compressor and preamp, but before my drive pedal, my theory being that I can control the amount of signal going to my drive pedal, therefore making it easier to clean up or go balls out noisy. Would that be a good idea, or just the wirings of a madman? Thanks for reading, and any thoughts would be much appreciated. Keep up the great work on TPS. Patrick, yes, you can absolutely do that. The only thing is try it. You know, you're not going to hurt anything by trying this stuff. But I think that's a great idea. You know, after the compressor, controlling the amount of volume going into the drive section, that would be great.
So guitar comes in from my side, goes into the volume pedal, goes into the compressor, goes into the preamp. Patrick is saying, could he put...
So we've got... So here you go.
Yeah.
You've got
You've
got volume pedal, compressor, preamp, and an overdrive.
So he's saying, can he put his volume pedal here?
Exactly.
What happens if he does that?
Well, it's actually really cool because you'll get... let's go back to where we were. If you've got a volume pedal going into a compressor, that it's going to be... The compressor is working between quite a range of input, right? So as you turn down the volume on the compressor, it's, you know, depending on how you got the compressor set, it's not going to make a lot of difference.
So this could counteract this in some way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the first thing you do is you place it after that and before this anyway.
So we'd start here.
Yeah, you start that there. But then if we go here,
yeah.
So if you get these together and that's a really great sound that you love, but you want to be able to control the volume of that, perfect. If you stack these three, then what you're going to get is this sound, and then you're controlling the level of this two into here, which will have a huge impact on the way that this performs. So absolutely.
The answer is yes, Patrick. It would seem. I like this now.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's like diagrams, but with real things.
I've misplaced my...
We lost.
Oh, sorry. See ya.
It's all right. We're almost there. Mike Fenton says, hi, Mike. Gents, would it be possible for Sir Dan to do an episode on troubleshooting like he showed with testing the cable in this episode, but for pickups and all that jazz
Doing
as well?
a whole show on troubleshooting. It's already on the list. It's
How long is that show going to be?
It's going to be...
Pardon me.
It's going to be... Yeah. It's...
Process of elimination.
Process of elimination and how you go through that. We're going to go through... It's really interesting, actually. Yeah. So, yes, we are doing it.
We should talk about Riff City Guitar.
Yep.
Riff City, who was our preferred, exclusive preferred retailer in the US, is no more.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah. Joe and the guys.
Joe and the guys gave it a really good shot. They got to 3 stores. Just really, really decent people. Had a great business. But as Joe said in a very heartfelt statement that he put out, competing with the big boys is borderline impossible.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah.
And there's a whole, I mean, we could talk about that for hours, but it's happening right across retail. It's tough.
It's really tough.
There's other metrics. There are other things that are happening in the European MI retail market at the moment to do with retail price and an investigation that's going on, which is basically, it's really tough. It means that everyone's in massive competition to slash their prices to make sure that we can all buy cheap crap from China, the cheapest as possible. Sorry, bit political here. And all that's happening is no one's making any money.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? You've already seen most of the music stores close on your high street, and that might be fair enough because they're not competitive. They don't do good service. The salespeople are crap. You know, could be any number of reasons that a business closes. But if there's only Amazon left, it's going to be shit.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So apologies for getting a bit annoyed there. We wish all the guys at Rift City really well. Joe, we massively appreciate your support.
Yeah,
you've
been
enabled
amazing.
TPS to get off the ground and get going.
Joe's daughter?
Ellen.
Yeah. They had us out there for a visit last year, and such a great bunch of people. So yeah, you guys will be missed. And
good luck with whatever comes next.
Yeah,
Because you know,
definitely.
one door shuts, another one opens every single time.
Yeah.
So good luck, guys.
Yeah.
And we thank you for your support.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. John Cosgrove is becoming my favourite commenter. So we'll leave you with this. Dan, if you wouldn't mind.
Sorry, Dad. I'm a pure guitarist, and I don't use pedals. My suggestion is to stop building pedal boards and work instead on playing better guitar. Other pure guitarists know what I'm talking about. Deep down, you do too.
Do you know that, Dad?
Bless you, John.
Well done, John. Keep going, keep going. I think Segovia would agree. He didn't even need an amp.
Cheers, guys. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you again this Friday.
Epic show coming this Friday.
Epic show.
Don't
Put
miss
some
it.
time aside for it.
It's
a
long
big one. Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Take it easy.
See ya.
Bye.